The 2024 Indian Formula 4 Championship started off with a bang.
Hello everyone, my name is Giancarlo Artho. I'm a 16-year-old Swiss Australian racing driver, and this is a new series I've decided to start up, which basically documents and recaps my journey in the Indian F4 Championship. So let's get into it. Alright, so in July of this year, I competed in the FGSP Indian F4 Global Shootout program, which was held at Circuit Du Var, France. And that was a 3-day scouting camp which assessed me and 9 other drivers from across the world in our driving skills, our fitness, and also our media skills. And it was a really interesting opportunity because it was being run by AGS Formula 1, which used to be a Formula 1 team back in the 1990s. The winner of the shootout ended up getting a fully paid scholarship to race in the Indian F4 Championship for free, and I ended up winning that, which was and still is one of the best days of my life. It's still sort of sinking in because I ended up getting my first full season in cars paid for free. I also ended up getting this trophy, which is really cool, and I keep it like in my bedroom with me, so I look at it every day. Okay, so let's get into round 1. Round 1 was held at the Madras International Circuit, which is located in Tamil Nadu in India. It is a 3.7 kilometer track and it is a grade 2 facility. It was a really interesting track. It's got some fast flowy corners as well as some technical corners, which really tested me, and I learned so much. It was a really good track to have my first race weekend at, because it is probably the best facility in India for racing and it's the most used one, so there's a lot of experience in that track. And yeah, it was just really good. So we had 2 days of testing prior to the first round, so I'll show you an onboard from that and we'll go over some of the corners. Let's get into it. The Madras International Circuit starts off with a long straight leading into a fast 90-degree right-hander. Other open-wheeling cars can take this corner almost flat, however we do a slight brake and then gradually pick up the throttle through the corner. This leads us onto another right-hander, which is our first proper braking zone of the track and the best overtaking spot too. Then we have a 90-degree left, which is arguably the most important corner because it sets up for the long straight ahead. We then have these flat out S's which take us to the straight where we reach the fastest speed of the lap. After the straight we head into a hard braking zone which takes us through this section of long corners, which is some of the most technical of the track. This corner is probably one of the most trickiest on the circuit, with it being a double apex, meaning you have to touch the first part of the curb as you're braking, then come wide before hitting the second curb as you get back on the power. Then there is another long straight after this slight kink left, which takes us to another hard braking zone, which is another really good overtaking spot. After this we have a slight brake which takes us through a high speed left leading on to another straight. Coming up we've got a corner quite similar to the first couple of corners at Circuit Du Var, which is a kink which goes into a braking zone going into the slowest corner of the track, reaching just over 70 km an hour. Then there is a slight lift going into our penultimate corner. We have this elevation change here which sort of unsettles the car, going into our final corner, which is a long bumpy right hander taking us to our main straight. Alright, so it's been a while since I recorded the last couple of clips for this video, but I'm back and I've got a new haircut and yeah, let's get into qualifying. Unfortunately I didn't get any onboards from the races or qualifying for this round, so I'm just going to recap everything that went on. I might throw some clips in, but I don't have any onboard footage. In Q1, unfortunately I was one of the last cars sent out on track, which caused me to be in a lot of traffic for most of the session. This meant my lap was only really good enough for P9, which was a little bit behind my goal of P6 into this session. Q2 was a relatively similar story, where I got a little bit of traffic. I was able to get a better lap in, but it was still only good enough for P8. This gave me a lot to work for in the races because my goal for race 1 was to finish in P6. In Indian F4, the top 6 finishes of race 1 get reversed to determine the starting grid for race 2, and my goal was to get reverse grid pole, which would set me up really well for race 2. Race 1, so obviously starting from P9, my goal was to get into P6 by the end of the race, hopefully even further up, but P6 because I wanted that reverse grid pole. I started off the race really strongly by gaining 2 places at the start, putting me up to P7. Unfortunately I had a bit of a gap to the cars in front, but I also had a bit of a gap to the cars behind, which was really good. So I just had to be in a steady rhythm moving forward throughout the race. It was going really well, and all I had to do was just keep going with that steady pace, which I was slowly inching closer by about 2 or 3 tenths a lap, which was exactly what I needed. My plan was going really well.
Until
about a third of the way through the race, I started to notice that if I modulated the throttle too quickly, the car would lose power when I was going flat out. So I had to slowly build up, and it started to get worse and worse through the race. I started to lose positions, which was really unfortunate because my plan was going really well up until that point. Unfortunately, I ended the race in 12th place, dropping back 5 positions from where I was before. However, I ended up 3rd in the rookie podium, which meant I got a podium in my first race. It was a very bittersweet feeling because I was first in rookies up until that point, but after the issue, I just ended up losing place after place. Race 2 was a pretty similar situation to race 1. I started from P12 because someone in the other race got a penalty who was in front of me, and I ended up getting up to P9 by the end of the first lap. I had the same issue as I had in race 1, which ended up pushing me back down in the grid, and then eventually I ended up having to retire the car because it got to the point where I literally couldn't even go on the throttle more than 1% without the car cutting power. Unfortunately, in race 3 I had the same issue again, and it was the first thing I noticed coming out of the pits. I ended up stalling the car like halfway through the outlap, and I had to restart because I couldn't even get on the power at all. I was very lucky to limp home into the pits with the car literally turning off as I was driving through pit lane. The team at MP tried to get the car fixed so at least I could try and do a few laps during the race. Unfortunately, we did kind of get it fixed, but it wasn't really a permanent fix, it was more of a temporary thing. So I ended up doing 1 or 2 laps, and unfortunately the issue was still there and I ended up having to come back. Unfortunately, that's what put an end to my debut weekend in Formula 4. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. It means a lot if you've made it this far and stuck to the end. Please make sure to like and subscribe and comment if you enjoy what you're seeing. Again, really sorry that I didn't get footage for the races for this round. Before I go, I'd just like to thank FGSP, Indian F4, AGS, RPPL, MP Motorsport and everyone else for all the support through the weekend and through the series. I'll see you guys in the next video for round 2. Bye.